We continue now at the top of Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph in Meseches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 15a. And the previous Amud Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina said that let's say the term of a person's Nazirus ends, but he has not yet brought his karbonos, so he gets malchus if he becomes tameh, but that does not apply to shaving his hair, and that does not apply to having wine. In those situations, he would not get malchus. And so the Gemara wanted to know, what is the distinction? And the Gemara answers, Shani Hach, it's different over here when we're talking about Tumah. The Yomar Rachmana, because the Pasuk says, V'timei Rosh Nizro, he's Tameh, and it talks about the Rosh Nizro, and so we darshan it to mean, Misha Nizro Talui Lo Barosho, somebody whose Nazirus is dependent upon the hair on his head, meaning to say, if he hasn't yet shaved, he hasn't yet brought his karbonos, specifically by Tumah, there is going to be Malchus. Rashi over here says, Shani Hachagabe Tumah Taima Maihu Deloke. When it comes to Tumah, why does the person get Malchus? Dichsiv Vitime Rosh Nizro Misha Nizro Talilo Barosho. The Mashma Shatola Hakosov is Hatumah. The pasuk implies that the Tumah, when the pasuk talks about Tumah, it's specifically B'misha Adayin Lo Niskaleach. We're talking about somebody who hasn't shaved. Even if the term of the Nazirus has ended, as long as he hasn't shaved, meaning the Nazirus is still upon his head. It's all dependent on that, and that's why specifically by Tumah there is Malchus, but not by Tiglachas, not by shaving, and not by having wine. And the Gemara continues, Meisvei, we have the following question. Nazir shekalu lo yamav, it says that if you have a Nazir who finished his term, Asr legaleach v'lishtos yainu l'tami l'mesim, it's forbidden for him to shave, it's forbidden to him to drink wine, it's forbidden to him to become tamei meis. V'im gilech v'shasa yayin v'nitzma l'mesim, and if he did any one of these three things, he cut his hair, he drank wine, he became tamei meis, harezeh sofig esvarbaim, he gets 40 lashes, he gets malchus, and so you see clearly from this brisa that this applies to all three. It doesn't just apply to Tomas Meis. If he does any of the three items, even if it's after the term of the Nazirus, but if it's before the karbanos are brought, so you see you get Malchus, Tiyufta, and the Gemara says this is a refutation of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. Rashi says, Im Gileach, V'shasa Yayin, V'nitzma L'mesim, Soveg, Eso Arboim, Alma de Gomri, Yemei, L'rabos, Yomim, Shal Achra Malos. You see that when we say the word Yemei, it means even the days after the term, you get Malchus, with Tiyufta, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, and again, this is a refutation of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah. There are a number of explanations for this Mishnah. We will go with the explanation of the Mefarish, who we refer to as Rashi. The Mishnah says, Hareini Nazir l'cheshiyeheli ben. If a person says, I am a Nazir when I have a son, v'Nazir mea yom, and he also says, from right now I'm a Nazir for 100 days. So nolad lo ben ad shivim. If he has a son before 70 days, so lo hifsid klum, then he doesn't lose anything. However, la'achar shivim, but let's say 70 days of the 100 days have went by, and then he has a son, so then soser shivim. Then it's going to undo the 70 that he counted. She'ein teglachas pachos mishloshim yom, because you're not able to shave less than 30 days, meaning there's no significant hair growth in less than 30 days. And Rashi over here says, Hareini nazir kashiyah li ben, v'nazir mea yom. Again, he says, I'm a nazir when I have a son, and I'm a nazir for 100 days starting from now. Says Shalo, he begins to count the 100 days of his. Lo ben ad ayin yom. So if he has a son up until 70 days, so tzarech lohaniach es shalo, then he sets aside his nazirus v'limnos es shel beno, and he counts the 30 days for his son. And lo hifzid klum, he doesn't lose anything. The shaloshim yom hu demiyasri leimimeh, because he has 30 days or more left from the 100. Elameniach es shalo umon es shel beno, he simply leaves his count, counts the 30 days for his son. Umegaleach, and then he shaves. Umon shloshim, and he counts the remaining days. Let's say it's 30 days remaining. He counts those remaining 30 days from the 100, kedei lahashlam meya shalo, to finish his 100 days, umegalech, and he shaves again, the vishloshim isbuhu kedei gidol sar, because in 30 days there is enough time for the hair to grow. But the Mishnah continued, Avalim nolad lo la'achar ayin, but let's say the son is born after 70 days, meaning he's counted more than 70 days of the 100 days. Delo miyasri luhu shloshim, now he doesn't have 30 days remaining. The lesbuhu gidol sar, and that's not enough time for hair to grow. She'in tiglachas pachos milamid yom, because shaving, you're not able to do the shaving less than 30 days because there's no significant hair growth. Hilkach soser sakol, in that situation, it will actually undo everything. Umaschil limnos es shel beno, he'll have to begin counting the 30 days for his son, umegaleach, and he will shave, v'yachar kach monem mea shelo, and they'll have to count 100 days, his 100 days all over again. All of that count that he did before is not going to count. And Rashi over here says, V'hani mili b'nazirus meruba. This halacha over here that we're saying in our Mishnah is when he takes upon himself a long nazirus, like 100 days. Avol b'nazirus muetis. But let's say he only takes upon himself a short nazirus, so eino soser klal. Then actually it wouldn't undo everything. The fact that he has a nazirus for his son in the middle is not going to undo the count. Kedetnan la'el, as we learned earlier, meiniach es shalo, that he can set aside his nazirus, umones shal beno, he can count the nazirus for his son, v'yachar kach mashlam es shalo, and then he could actually just complete his nazirus, ve'eno soser, it doesn't undo anything, v'tayim amai keda amran, and the reason is, like we said, she'ein tegalachas bein tayim, because when you're talking about shorter nazirus, you don't have to shave in between. Ukechada nazirus arichu, it's all considered like one long nazirus, so that's how Rashi addresses the seeming contradiction between this Mishnah and the earlier Gemara. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav says, Yom Shivim, the 70th day itself, Ola Lakan Lakan, it counts for both sets, meaning it counts towards the 100 days, and it also counts towards the 30 days for the Nazirus for his son. Rashi says, Amar Rav, Nolad lo ben biyom ayin. Let's say he has a son on day 70 itself. So Ola lo Lakan, it's going to count for both, meaning, also Yom Olalo Laminyan Ayin, that day will count in terms of the count of 70 days of the 100 days. Ulaminyan Shel Beno, the Shloshim de Levino Nami Maschil, Limnos Bo Bayom. And also in terms of the 30 days he's doing for his son, that day will count as day number 1 towards the 30. When he wants to go complete afterwards, he has to finish off the 100 days. Shala'achar Nazirus Shel Beno, meaning after the Nazirus of his son. Ein Sarach Limnos Elachav Test, because of the fact that day number 70 counted for both, he actually only needs to complete 29 days and not 30 days. So that's what Rav is saying over here, that day number 70 accounts for both. And the Gemara says, Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Nolad lo ad shivim, let's say he has a child, let's say he has a son until day number 70, lo hifsid klum, then he hasn't lost out on anything. That's what the Mishnah said. And the Gemara says, well, 1 second. Visalka daitach ola lakan lakan. If you're saying that day number 70 actually counts for both, and like Rashi said, there's only 29 days left, so Idgure Midgar, actually in such a situation, he seems to be profiting, he seems to be gaining a day, because now, because of the fact that day number 70 counted for both, he only has 29 days remaining, instead of having 30 days remaining. And the Gemara answers, Ela bedinhu delo lisni ad shivim. Really, the Mishnah shouldn't have said, until day number 70, he doesn't lose anything, because really, again, at day 70, he actually gains. Umishum de katani seifa achar shivim soser shivim. But since at the end of the Mishnah it says that if it's after day 70, then it undoes the 70, so it uses the term shivim over there, so katani reisha shivim. So therefore, in the reisha of the Mishnah, it also says day 70, but again, really by day 70, it's not really lo hifsid klum. Really, by day 70, there would actually be a gain. But the Gemara continues, Tashmami Seifa, but still we could bring a proof against what Rav says from the end of the Mishnah, what we just quoted. It said, Nolad Achar Shivim, if the son is born after day 70, meaning on day 71, so Sir Shivim, so it undoes the 70, but again, according to Rav, if the day can be counted for both, so day 71 really should be Lo Hifsid Klum. He shouldn't lose out anything on day 71, because day 71 will count towards the 100, and it will also count towards the 30 for his son. It should really only be a problem starting by day 72. And so the Gemara says, no, that's what it means. My achar, what does it mean after 70? Achar. It means after the after of 70, meaning it really means day 72. But the Gemara says, Aval achar mamish mai, but according to that, let's say it would be actually after, meaning on day 71, what would be the halacha? Hachinami de los aser. It sounds like you're saying that it wouldn't undo everything, that day 71 also would still be okay. But the Gemara says, if so, why does it say in the Mishnah, Nolad ad shivim lo hifsid klum, that he doesn't lose anything if it's born until day 70? This is really just a similar question to what we first asked from the Reisha. It should have said, Afilo achar shivim nami, even if it's the day after 70, even if it's day 71. Ha'amrit lo saser, you just said that it doesn't undo anything. Meaning to say, in short, it is clear from the Mishnah that it's really day 70 is the cutoff. At day 70, the person doesn't lose anything. At day 71 already, if the son is born, then it undoes everything. And the Gemara says, you're right. It's clear from the Mishnah, when it says the day after the 70th day, it means the 71st day, and it's clear from the Mishnah that at day 70, it's lo hifsid klum, that's where there's nothing lost but nothing gained. And also at day 71, that's where everything is undone. And the Gemara says, V'chein masnisin l'Rav shma mina. And the same is true. Rav himself also understood the Mishnah that way, meaning when Rav said that the 70th day counts for both, he was not going in our Mishnah. He understood that he was saying something against our Mishnah. And the Gemara continues, V'Rav kiman amar l'shmaite. So Rav, who was he following when he said that day 70 counts for both towards the 100-day term and also towards the 30-day term for his son? The Gemara says, Ilema kabashal. If you're going to say that Rav is following the opinion of Abishal, the Tanan, as we learned in a Mishnah, and the Mesoras Hashas changes this to the Tanya because this is from a Tosefta. The Tosefta says, Hakover es meso shalosha yomim kodem l'regel. If somebody buries his dead 3 days before the holiday, batla mimenu gezeiras shiva. So he no longer needs to observe Shiva, the 7 days of mourning. Shmona yomim kodem l'regel. If he buries the dead 8 days before the holiday, batla mimenu gezeiras shloshim. Then he no longer needs to observe the shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning. Umutter l'saper erev haregel. It's going to be mutter for him to take a haircut on the eve of the holiday. V'im lo siper erev haregel. Now, if he doesn't take that haircut on the eve of the holiday, asur l'saper achar haregel. So he's not allowed to take a haircut after the holiday. And Rashi explains, Gimel yomim kodem l'regel batlu mimenu gezeiras shiva. If the burial is 3 days before the holiday, there's no longer going to be shiva, meaning to say she'ein sarach lahashlam achar haregel zay yimei avelos. He's already observed 3 days of the 7. He doesn't need to complete those 7 days after the holiday. To kevan de ikar ha'avelos dahainu gimel yomim rishonim. The main mourning is actually the first 3 days of the shiva. Kedam rinan b'moed katan. That's what we say in moed katan. Havi kodem l'regel. That all took place before the holiday. Bitel haregel es ha'achronim. So the holiday comes along and it nullifies the remaining days. He doesn't need to observe the remaining days of shiva. If the burial was 8 days before the holiday, so when a person observes Shiva, the next day after the Shiva is over, that begins what we call the Shloshim. That's day 1 of Shloshim. Now that day 1 of Shloshim was observed right before the holiday. It was Kodem Haregel. So Bitul Haregel Mimenu Gezerah Shloshim. Now the regel comes along and nullifies the rest of the Shloshim. No need to observe the Shloshim after. It's mutter to take a haircut on the eve of the holiday for the honor of the holiday, but also l'saper achar haregel. If he doesn't take that haircut, he will not be able to get the haircut after the holiday ad shloshim until the 30 days have passed. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tesvav Amud Beis.